Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. Webster Tarpley in Washington, D.C. And again, keep up with everything at tarpley.net, tarpley.net. One-stop shopping for all my books. We'll talk a little bit about 9/11 synthetic terror and the truth of what's in there if we have time later in the broadcast, given the 9/11 anniversary. But first, let's look back at this foreign policy speech by Hillary Clinton. Right? We're going to have the United Nations General Assembly now. It's September in New York. The world comes in. Foreign ministers want to give their speeches. So Hillary got ahead of it. She went to the Council on Foreign Relations, and in the presence of this character, Haas, I guess it is, and a bunch of bigwigs, she gives her speech on foreign affairs, and of course she's busy. She's got Israel-Palestine talks going. The Iraq combat operations have ended. The attack on Iran, the nuclear program has got to be beefed up. The Pakistani floods, the Afghan war, and so forth. But out of all this, she sees what she calls a new American moment. U.S. world domination, she thinks, has never had it so good. She's very much on the triumphalistic line. It's actually a complacency that goes beyond just complacency and becomes triumphalistic. The U.S. can, will, and must lead the world. It's a new American moment. Now, the original American moment, I guess she means from 1945 to 1950 with Truman, with Kennan, with Harriman, with Atchison, with Marshall, with the so-called wise men. In reality, just a bunch of finance oligarchs, some of them like Kennan, probably pro-Nazi, anti-Soviet, and interested in setting up this alliance system. What she's peddling, though, is unilateralism, and I think this has to be stressed. Under Bush and Cheney, we had unilateralism, hegemonism, U.S. world domination, trumpeted, proclaimed, in a very blunt and cynical and open form. These guys were reactionaries, they were imperialists, they were aggressors, and they wanted you to know that, right? Bring it on, and so forth. What you have now with Obama-Clinton is unilateralism, but it's unilateralism in disguise. It's unilateralism in drag, we might say. At one point, she says, Hillary Clinton does, it's not a multipolar world that we seek to have, but a multi-partner world. A multi-partner world means that the entire world is going to be arrayed around the United States, centered on the United States, with the U.S. being the indispensable center of everything. A multipolar world would involve the frank admission that there are real differences, real conflicts of interest, that these are legitimate and that they ought to be settled through negotiation and, above all, by promoting world economic development as a means of cooling off the various hotspots. So there's no frank recognition of legitimate conflicts of interest. Rather, she quotes Dean Acheson saying more or less, it's better to evoke support than just to compel it. You can compel support, but it's better to persuade, right? To evoke support through indirect means. So this is obvious enough. It's hegemonism, and it's going to be unacceptable to a lot of people in the world. And it's also it's funny to see why she comes up with this at the moment that she does. If we look at, for example, she says the bases of U.S. strength, two key points, that there's a national renewal of the United States going on, that the economic might of the United States and the moral authority go together. Economic might. Well, we got a deindustrialized country with a financial crisis and massive unemployment and foreclosures. Is that economic might? And then the moral authority. We might as well forget the moral authority for the moment. This is now in the sands of Abu Ghraib, and the Predator drones over Pakistan every day pretty much cancel this out. She says she grew up under Eisenhower, and she liked the infrastructure program, the interstate highway program. She therefore decided to study mathematics. Okay. Infrastructure. The infrastructure program of Obama is pathetic. Secondly, she says, international diplomacy is the key. So on the one side, economic might joined with moral authority. On the other, international diplomacy. She actually claims that the United States is helping developing countries to lift themselves out of poverty with sustainable development and progress. And then she cites the Palestinian occupied territories. Out of all the places in the world, one of the most obvious humanitarian emergencies anywhere in the world, certainly Gaza, but the West Bank also, not in good shape. But she's crowing about that as a model of development. I don't know. Anyway, this is all the old Madeleine Albright indispensable nation once again. It's the American exceptionalism. And as I always say, you want to be indispensable, do something positive that makes you indispensable, and you won't have to say it, others will say it. You want to be exceptional, do something exceptional. There's no debate going around saying, "Oh, I'm exceptional," and you better recognize it. And instead, what we get is hypocrisy, arrogance, the double standards, the blindness. Right? Because the overwhelming theme of this, or the impression of this speech, is that she doesn't see reality. There is no U.S. national renewal going on. The economic might is dwindling. Your basic industry is in ruins. The Chinese are about to pass you in industrial production. They've already passed you in energy consumption. By 2025, the Chinese will be on the moon with the nuclear industry and fast rail, and the U.S. will be wallowing in this mass of derivatives and speculation and the casino economy of globalization. And you're not helping the LDCs to get out of poverty. Instead, conditions in the third world have been deteriorating fast since 2006, 2007. If we look at the specifics, Israel-Palestine, this is really not a serious peace process. This is part of, it's a cosmetic aspect of the anti-Iran buildup to make it easier for Arab countries to join the U.S. against Iran. In the case of Iraq, the war goes on, and there is no government. They can't even impose Alawi, the puppet they want, because Maliki and Muqtada Sadr of the Mahdi army have formed an alliance which is pro-Iranian. Concerning Iran, we have this interesting dispatch on Cryptome, which is written by Hillary Clinton, allegedly. It's a leaked document, 10th of August, top secret, better than anything you're going to find on WikiLeaks. Cryptome, and it's basically saying there's a consensus in the U.S. that Iran is seeking a nuclear weapon. There's a consensus that this is unacceptable, that it's an existential threat to Israel. Therefore, there's going to be an attack on Iran, and after that, there's going to be a great chance for regime change. And while you're at it, why not go after Venezuela also? Nobody asked her about this, whether this is authentic or not. The Pakistani floods, and in Afghanistan, the coalition is crumbling. The Dutch have left. The Canadians will leave. The U.S. is now fighting with the British about who's responsible for defeat. In Asia, right, we've got Hillary's policy of meddling in the South China Sea. She's antagonizing China more and more with this outside intervention into these territorial conflicts among the nations of the area. She's got a big move on ASEAN as part of this. She says the U.S. is going to promote a joint U.S.-ASEAN summit, butting in, meddling in ASEAN affairs. The START Treaty emerged from the Q&A. The START Treaty, of course, may not pass anytime soon because of Republican opposition. Hillary holds on to her condemnation of Russia for the events in Georgia 2 years ago. She's still got her own crazy theory. She's pushing human rights as a means to browbeat Egypt, Russia, China, and she wants the dismemberment of Sudan and presumably a civil war there. So that's the concrete content. No positive line. We'll be back in a minute.